So, Pooja, what's going on in the
Yes.
politics? What's going on out there in the political
Okay.
world?
In the political world, well, the first thing I wanted to update on was just that the 14-year-old guy in Bronx got shot by a policeman because he was chasing after a guy. So do you think it was like, I mean, he was found dead. So I don't think that like the policeman should have handled the case that way. I really think if they were trying to stop him, especially because he was also very young, maybe they should have shot him on like a leg or something instead of shooting him in a place where uh I mean he died. So I mean, I'm not sure like if like he's only 14 years old. That's what kind of shocked me the most.
All right, you're talking about the case in Canada, right?
No, 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 no. This is something that happened in Bronx, New York City.
Oh my goodness, again. Because there was something that
Yes.
happened with Canada where they shot this gentleman, this kid, this teenager, again, a child, what was it, like 9 times. And everyone's
Oh
in an
my God.
uproar because they were like, there was no reason. Some sort of confrontation. He was definitely raw. He had like a knife,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
the cops didn't have to shoot him 9 times. There was no reason for that. Again, what about stun guns or like in London with the batons? Maybe beat him. I mean, they didn't have to kill him. But yeah, so this happened where? Where in New York?
This was in the Bronx.
Wow, 14.
So it was
He's 14 years old.
so 14 years old. He's 14 years old and he basically had a gun and he was running after another guy. And the police officer did yell out, being like, "It's police, drop your gun." And the kid did not listen to him. And so it was two police officers chasing after him. And I guess one of them took a shot and he ended up dying.
Wow.
And in the article, it stated that they were like new police officers. So I don't know if they weren't sure how to handle the situation. But I mean, he's only 14 years old. I really don't think like killing him was the way to go.
Right.
What is with all these people in authority killing little teenagers? Yo, people should not be cops if that's the case. If they're gonna go and killing little children, first it's Trayvon Martin, then it's all these. Yo, this is not cool. I do not agree. I do not approve. There is no light to situations like this. How are you a cop that is defending our country and you're killing? You don't kill somebody by accident, man. You don't end somebody's life. You kill a roach by accident. You're walking down the street, you can trip over a dog. You can hit a deer by accident. You don't kill somebody by accident, man.
I mean, like in the history, I think law enforcement, there've been plenty of cops with itchy trigger fingers, and I think there'll be plenty more to come in the future. What I get personally is that if you take any plain person and you have that person with a gun and that person shoots another person above the waist, that is considered attempted murder, whether or not that person dies or not. Below the waist is where that is not attempted manslaughter charges. Like, so I don't get, if a cop is trying to defuse the situation, why he would take shots towards someone in the torso. Like, if you can't do anything else and you must discharge your weapon, first you're a crappy cop because there are other options always. But shooting someone repeatedly will not break up the situation, and especially if it's an adolescent, of course their system is weaker than an adult, and they will lose a lot of blood and most likely die, like these cases have been proven to be. So it's just a tragic thing all around.
You're a cop, man. They train you where to shoot somebody. They you can't just like that. If that's the case, then they should give me a fucking badge, seriously, and give me a gun, and let me run around the streets concerning justice, because that's what it seems like it's happening
Well,
in the
you know
world.
what? You just brought a good point. Um, shouldn't they have a better screening for these individuals? I know a lot of people from back in the day that were not the most civilized, not the most intelligent, didn't have necessarily the brightest future, that went into law enforcement. And it's kind of scary. People with no patience whatsoever. So look at Zimmerman. Zimmerman tried to be a cop. I mean, Zimmerman was such a loser that he couldn't even become one. Now, mind you, You know, there are a lot of respectable cops out there. I'm definitely not cop bashing. There are a lot of cops that really believe in let's make this world a better place, let's help people, and all these other things. There are people that really take it to heart. But for all those that don't, how do we weed them out there? And they never even should have got to the point to become a cop. So I don't know. Does anybody know how, like as far as the testing and how that goes into that? Or no?
I really should, because my uncle used to be a police officer with Salt Lake City, and then he went to, I believe, like he went to SWAT, actually, and so he just had this really impressive career in law enforcement for the past 20 years, as long as I've been alive. And so I really should know, but I don't know how. Okay. I don't know exactly how meticulous the whole requirement is for any sort of law enforcement, but like you said, there are plenty of people who are skipping through it and who are given this position of really extreme credibility and power that plenty of people abuse. And you take all these cases, and they will make the news and just garner so much attention and it will be just tragic for all the parties involved.
Well, we live in a really good time for our generation, just because of the fact that a lot of people are getting caught. You know, whether it's people spreading information on tweets, people spreading information on Facebook. It's a beautiful time because now they're getting caught, and the conversations are definitely getting out there. So it's very, very good. All right. Well, you know what? Let's do some research on that, because and then come back and bring that into discussion of just the process and what we can do as citizens to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. Let them know that the public will not stand for it, that as a servant, a public servant, you're here to serve the community, not just crack a whip and give out tickets. You know, you're there to help people and keep the
Also,
peace. Yeah, go ahead.
just to add one more tip, because I think this is also very important. So apparently, when the officers did identify themselves and ordered him to put the gun down, he did turn and point the gun at them. So that's when they ended up shooting him, I guess, in the jaw, and that's when he was pronounced dead on the scene.
Okay, then it could just be that's practically suicide by police. That's they will take the shot in that circumstance. I know that for a fact. Then that
would that be okay to take a shot because he's also very young?
How do they know how old he is, though? Like, they don't know how, if he's a 14, 15, 17, 19, like, I think that if, I work at a police department on my campus, and I know that, I don't know a whole lot about it, but if somebody's pointing a gun at you, it's your life or theirs. I mean, they're definitely, like Cam just said, they're trained to shoot to kill. If somebody is pointing their weapon directly at the officer, that's saying, I'm going to kill you. I mean, could he have debilitated the person? Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there. I haven't researched the case. I don't know. But if he's pointing a gun directly at the officers and they took a shot, I mean, that sucks.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
What do you do?
Because I'm sorry, if you're 4 years old and you're stop. No, but
I know.
You know,
I know
It is
people
what it is. It is what it is. If a situation like that, I mean, I think with anyone within reason, if it's your life or someone else's that need to survive, yeah. I mean, you can't blame the cop for that, you know. But in a situation like the one in Canada, and there have been several things in New York City, in Brooklyn that have come up where the cops were in plain clothes sometimes, or undercover, or did not say, hey, I'm an officer. There's a lot of times that happens where that urge of I just want to shoot because now I have the okay within the law to shoot. I'm just going to shoot because I'm trigger happy. That's totally different. Yeah, Cameron, you about to say something?
Hmm?
You about to say something?
Oh, I was about to say, like, regarding the whole age variable in any sort of murder, assault, any sort of big crime. I know people who are 21 years old and they look 13. I know people who are 14 years old and they look 23. Like, it, it's there's no specific case for for really. You always have to consider the age of the victim or any situation. Um, between the police and civilians. But yeah, you can't really always depend on the age and stuff like that because I don't know what these kids like. These kids may have been. I know they weren't closer to my age, but I know that Trayvon Martin was still a big kid. Like he was still a big adolescent, and he certainly had threatening presence. And so it all this like the cops just have to play it smart, really smart, and who's in that position of power should really be cautious about that age because it's not all what it seems like it could be.
And again, I think it's sad. I think it's a shame because here's a 14-year-old child that is now no longer with us. But I think when you step back a little bit, why did he even have a gun? Shouldn't he have a book or some bubble gum or a toy? You know, maybe, like he should have had a football in his hand, not a gun. I mean, what's going on with youth today that they're running around with weapons, and you hear in high schools, even the middle school, kids having guns in their lockers and knives. Again, it's not rampant. It doesn't happen all the time, but the fact that it's happening at all, it's really, really sad within itself. I think that's the saddest part about it.
In any violent situation that makes the news, I always look past the guns. Oh, all these people died. I'm not immediately going to rush out and hate on guns because I do think they're important to have for protection. But I will always look past the whole gun aspect for the true cause of that, whether it's injustice on a public servant like a policeman, or mental disturbance, or like some sort of disturbance in the mental condition of the shooter. Like I will always look past the whole gun argument and look for the bottom cause that leads to all these horrible events.
Right. Well, where are you guys on gun control?
I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not in agreement with it either. So I'm pretty neutral when it comes to gun control. I don't see why it's a problem why someone decides to have one. They can have one, whatever. But I don't see why someone should have one.
Well, I think I was always on one side of the fence, and now I'm kind of in the middle. Just because, let's just say, in a fictitious world, the military or the auxiliary military, i.e. the police, the peacekeepers, if they decide to, hey, you know what, we're going to take control, we're going to take everything over, what do we do as citizens if we don't have any kind of weapons? So when it goes back to the forefathers, they always left room open for revolt or left room open to protect yourselves. I mean, remember, this country started from revolting from the powers that be. So, that whole thing of being able to protect yourself, protect your family, I get where people are coming from. Because if a robber has a gun and I don't have anything, guess who's going to lose?
I mean, I don't think guns should necessarily be completely controlled. I think like some people do use it for like purposes such as hunting and other things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like it just like the people that are the owners for the guns, they need to take better care of making sure that the guns don't fall into like someone else's hand, because I feel like most of these guns that are owned by a lot of these kids or whoever, it's usually them stealing it from like their parents or someone else. So I feel like people that have guns just really need to make sure that they're very. I mean, I'm not supporting guns in any case, but the people like that I know that do like think that they really do need their gun. I feel like they need to be extremely careful with like how where they put their gun and like how make sure that it's not accessible to anyone, especially someone that's very young and impressionable.
I also think that people who do own guns, I don't think that there should be an issue with getting a background check. I know that it is in our Second Amendment, which means it is technically a right, but based on the horrific shootings like the Aurora Theater shooting and Sandy Hook Elementary and events like that, I think that calls for some kind of change that needs to be brought to light. Like, I agree with what you guys said. I don't think that there's a problem with people having guns if they're responsible, but I think that it should be looked a little bit more as a privilege than a right. If you are a convicted felon and you've had like a whole rap sheet of crimes, why should you be allowed to own an AK-47?
Right. Well,
that's my personal view.
But with driving, you have this vehicle, this a ton of steel, or depending on your car, fiberglass and steel, where you could kill anybody. And you take a test. No, first you get a permit, and then you get your license, right? So why wouldn't they give a gun, you take a test, they see how sane you are, a psychological evaluation, then you get your permit, and within 5 years, whatever like that, then get a license or some sort of something. Because if you're just like angry and you want to go buy a gun, by the time you get through that process, maybe you won't be angry at your wife or your husband cheating or your girlfriend or whatever, versus just, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to go do this,
I think as a psych major, I'm almost done with my degree, and I think that would probably avoid crimes of passion. But if you're looking at people like the guy who plotted to shoot up that Aurora Theater, he thought about that for months, and he was in counseling and he was on medication. The fact that he was a PhD student for neuropsychology is even more alarming, because he had insight into the fact that, he was incredibly unstable. And he plotted that for months and maybe even years. Wow. And yeah, red lights went off, but like for the psychologist, but nobody listened. I think that if we were to try to implement a program like that, people wouldn't accept that nationwide, maybe in some areas, but not maybe not in Texas or something. I don't know. I think that people would be able to lie. I think people, could be really sly about it, or maybe not even be planning on hurting another person, but after they get their gun, maybe they're a lifelong gun owner, something happens and that's all it takes. Right. I think it's really subjective to the person and the experiences they've had in the situation that they're in. Right. Unfortunately.
For the safety of the nation and for the safety of kids, there's got to be some kind of, I just threw an idea out there, but there's got to be some sort of middle ground where, and then that's what almost everything in government right now, with this whole thing about insurance and Medicare, and it's like no one wants a middle ground. I want it my way. Hopefully we're that generation when everyone starts to retire and kick the bucket, that we can inspire a generation that could play in this sandbox together instead of just me and I don't know, it's kind of crazy. All right, cool. So we're gonna cut to a word on the street. The Eclectic Show is live on the scene in Philly, and we're gonna check that out.